It looks like we scrapping. War Horde's back in action. Whoa! All right, guys. So Orks are back at it. We actually have a undefeated performance that I'd like to go over today. We also have the stats, the facts as for the general Ork community and how it's doing. Honorable mentions, the players that I think that did best, and then we have the actual notes from the player who went to the event. Thank you for him for reaching out and being a part of the community, so that you guys can get real time and notes from the players themselves as well. So with that being said, let's get stuck in, lads, because it was a fun one. And of course, we had the holidays here in the States. So the UK went off and had some good events too. And I'm pretty excited for the most part. So even though it was an event win, not trying to deceive you guys, but I'm just saying they did go undefeated at an event. It's hard for Orks, as you can see here, and as I went over last week when I talked about how the Orks were doing overall going into the data slate and how we were really looking solid for the overall win rates, but our ability to actually win events is very, very low and poor. Even on the grand scale of the meta, we'd be actually considered the lowest end of that. If you didn't catch that video, summarize that part. So with that being said, that's really impressive for people to still even be able to go undefeated, which we've seen happening here and there. Shout out to all our gets that have been going undefeated, but to win is hard for Orcs. So this wasn't a win again, but it was a great run right here. So shout out to Stats Hubert, Hutber. If you guys are wondering, because people ask me in the comments sometimes, that's what this is. If you want to follow with me, he has great random notes and stats all over the place. It's a great website. So Orc sitting at a 48% win rate. I say room for growth going into the data slate. Absolutely, especially when we talk about their event wins. I think there's one more in here that Uber forgot, but it's still like 3 overall when I looked at stat checks too. So but the win rate, this is what GW consider a good spot, Goldilocks zone, whatever. I think we can actually improve because, that's maybe mid-table bullies, you want to say. I'm under the impression, and I'm not, this isn't to slander anybody, including me, because I'm not like, world-class level player. But, when I see a lot of the time when I'm looking over these, performances from X and 1 players a lot of the time, sometimes, maybe 6 and 2 players, whatever, very respectable, very honorable. Everybody should be proud of that. But then it does come to, well, the next thing to look into is the context of the wins and the order of the wins/losses. So if you lose round 1, it's vastly different than losing round 5, right? And what I'm seeing a lot from Orcs, here and there are people who lose, like we look at the 4-1 results, right? Orcs were very low for the 4-1 results at that last video. I showed that off. Even in, from what I've seen, somebody going 3-0 on day 1 for Orcs, still not that common and often what's happening. So though our win rate says we're good, because someone will lose that game 3 at a GT as an Orc, right? That's my experience as well. When day 1's going, I'm happy. Game 3 comes, boom, I take that loss to the person who ends up winning the event, for example, or does well. And that's common for a lot of Orc people that I hear from the community, from the players' results list that we go over. And of course, this is all, some people will say your opinion. Of course, to a degree it is. Yet the channel itself is what's giving account to all this, because if I miss something in the stats, you still see it based off the context of what I show. So what's cool about that is Orcs can win with a lot of detachments, right? So that's why you never really see me upset about it, nor do you see Orc players complaining about it, our state too much, because we can still win with a lot of detachments, which is a win in the state of, in the eyes of GW and for the Orc community as a whole, because a lot of factions can't diversify internally, changing their detachments, even though we see a lot of overlap with common units. But here with with Orcs, Warhorde is drastically the most common and popular played regularly. I think it's like about 67% of the player base generally is about Warhorde, from I think when I look at it. That varies week by week, but you can see here from the players, we had 232 Warhorde players, and every other detachment is less than 30. Bully Boys is always close with 32. We'll say that, right? So yes, when we're looking at these, when I show the honorable mentions, you'll see a lot of people that are running Warhorde, and like chat's saying right now, we already almost know what these lists are going to be, and so do our opponents, right? So that's someone that needs to be considered as well. I think I'm still proud of people like Green Tide coming out of nowhere. The people who are playing Green Tide, you guys understand your meta read right now, right? You guys understand that the meta is elite. Orks are looking samey with all our lists. If the top player understands what our list is, which most likely they do, they have the tools or understanding to counter it, which stops people from ultimately winning overall events. Even when I talk to the top players, we were talking to Lucas Troller, world-class player, Team America, fantastic guy, able to actually win events with Orks, not by whiffs. He does it regularly to a degree. He'll tell you essentially similar things. You can go watch that video where he gives his takes, and he's even more articulate with how he says it. So I'm still proud because the guys who are trying to play Green Tide understand that this is a good time in the meta as a whole. And it's a good way to not play just the same old list. Yet Warhorde list, I'm proud of you guys too for doing good. And I actually have an honorable mention that I'm encouraging you guys to look at, because even though it has what we would call the consistent units that we're familiar with, has some good twist ups in there, but Warhorde people are still able to flex it out. So I'm still happy with them. 50% win rate on Warhorde. Like I said, Green Tide's the highest with 52, even though it's 26 players. And then we got more DACA guys. You guys are crazy. 3 players out there with the 47% win rate. They dug that win rate out of the dirt. That had fallen to like 30%. No lie. More DACA at one point was like a 30% win rate, even with 3 players. I think it's those same 3. Shout out to Kyle. It's those same 3 players that are just playing in week in, win out. Like, I will not give up on more DACA. So we have Bully Boys, pretty much always the second most popular, as in volume of people playing it. Shout out to the chat. Whoa! What's up to the channel members? Bully Boys is regularly like the second most popular, because who doesn't want 2 WAAAGHs, right? Also, another we can count are all the team performances from Orks. Someone shared in the Discord, which is a good showing, that Orks are doing overall good when it shows for team placements and performances, at least as of this last weekend, because I don't track teams regularly. Orks are actually looking as a solid team twist, because we know what matchups we can really mess up and slam into, but we also know what we really want to avoid. So Orks are kind of like on that teeter-totter saw, which is a weird place to be once in a while. Then we have Cult of Speed, 46% win rate. Yeah, these boys got the gas. I love Cult of Speed right now. I'm having super fun with it. And I can understand why people are playing it. It's totally had teeth before we had our last data slate. A lot of people were talking about it and trying to tech into it. And I do question, does it really just have its peak at somewhere like 46% win rate, or, randomly going 4-1, not regularly to any degree? But I like it a lot, so I have fun with trying anyways. So shout out to the Gits who do also. Then we have the crazy to hunt players, the big I like that because it's different from Warhorde enough, and it's kind of still thematic because you are playing your squigs and your pigs, and you got the rules for them, and people really do actually appreciate that, and it gives you the AP that Orks are lacking. A fun thing someone suggested in the last video also was like, I wish we could have a strat for changing our hunt prey, or once we kill a target, then we can pick another one right after you spend the CP, maybe even 2, whatever. But that would actually, for me, a really easy but also efficient way to make that detachment way more interesting and actually be different from Warhorde. So I actually really like that suggestion. But that being said, shout out to the hunt players. Chat's catching on right here. I see you guys. And then we have Dread Mob, 42% win rate. Oh yeah, the hunt was 46, and so was Cult of Speed. Then we have Dread Mob with a 42% win rate. Respectable amount of players, coming in third for the amount. Third for the amount of players played. So people still like that, but because we know Orc players, generally people be memeing, right? Or at least trying to get DACA down range with Dread Mob. So I'm all for it. Love my Dread Mob. You guys know that. There's a weird place in this world where cans are really efficient into this elite meta infantry, but it's very, very few people who can actually care to go into that and actually get the reps in and pull it through. Then we have, besides the crazy guy at Worlds, then we have Tactical Brigade with a 41% win rate. We can round up to 42, but as chat's saying as well, the Tactical Brigade win rate is just plummeting week by week, just going lower and lower. Really, we do have, I think I did have a list that I seen that was said to be tactical actually from last week that went 4-1, but the TO didn't release for it when I tried to actually pull up the list. So maybe I'll pull it up next week. But there was another git who did get 4-1 if everything checks out to be correct, but it's few and far between. It's regularly sitting like at the 44 to low 40s percent win rate. I think it's because it's a orc detachment that you play an elite into an elite meta with orc units and play the meta in an elite way, where a lot of these units are also playing one phase. I'm going to take my 2-3 tank bustas, give them +1 to hit, do the whole shebang. I have my big brick of flash kits. They don't do good into this 2-up armor save meta. It's just there's things that are going on where tactical brigade, what it's good at, was taken from it, and it actually needs help. But I don't know if GW will, because look at all the detachments are doing so well. Though obviously, according to the channel name, I would love if the tactical brigade functioned in a tactical manner, right? All of us would feel that way. So yeah, that being said, that doesn't mean you lose hope, because as you can see with the win rates, orcs generally are still able to get wins across multiple detachments. Everyone pretty much agrees on that. So with that being said, let me look at the actual honorable mentions. Let me give a shout out to the paint competition. If you guys pick up the Tim Boy, do the paint competition, enter on Facebook or Discord, and you win some Wall Tactic dice that we send to you. But they're due February 13th. So yeah, let's do it. If you guys want to enter that paint competition, get stuck in, lads. So for the red Tin Boy Gobbo. But here we go to the honorable mentions. So we have a lot, because this was actually from like 3 weeks out, and there's probably actually more that I could add to this. So I just wanted to give people some love anyways. And of course, we are going to do the voting. But for the first time ever, I've actually added my suggested vote. And this is because I actually found this list to finally be a entertaining War Horde list that was still able to win and do different, and it had good taste of other stuff. But if you pick anything else, if the chat votes for some of these things, I'll still be interested in doing that. Oh, I do suggest one of the War Horde lists though. But here we go from the top. We got Jeff Poole, who actually did excellent by getting 6-2 at the Cali Cup with War Horde. So great job to you. I've seen you once in a while come up in the results, so I know you're consistent. And I think Stats Uber, I had some stats for you I was looking at back in the day. So shout out to you. You get then we have Tony Bonello. He's our boy from the actual Discord. So funny get right here. He actually took his Stompa to the same Cali Cup, and he went 5-3 with his Dread Mob, which actually did surprise him himself. So people all the time back and forth, no matter what, they'll say the Stompa isn't real, like it's not really gonna win like games and such, but it really can actually win games, right? I can't say this doesn't happen to you. Tony is able to win and do well at events, even with traditional lists. So he's proven himself in that way. But it was really fun to see, and he played it the Dread Mob way, which is something that we see always has some dumb, bad stats, but ultimately it's because people are trying stuff like this. Then we go into Bjorn Olsen, another Dread Mob player. Shout out to that git at the Exterminatus GTs overseas, even picking up on some of them Dread Mobs, which is harder because, WTC tables are very dense, and I rarely see it on UKTC at all. So then we go to Rudy Fresnen with 5-1. With the Bullet Boys, and that was actually surprising when I looked back at it. This one was like about 3 horror weeks out though as well. It was a traditional Bully Boys to a certain degree, so shout out to that gate for the Bullet Boys. Like I said, Bully Boys is very popular. So sometimes, even though I think something's gonna win, a lot of times randomly Bully Boy just wins because it's so popular that people just vote for it by default. So I can suggest something, but you guys really like your Bully Boys. The stats say you do. Then we go on to Jonathan. I'm unable to enunciate that correctly. So it's Winchester 40K GT. We went 4-1 right alongside Seth Bryan. So shout out to them gates. Whoa. Let me know about that. I don't, I'm trying to stop myself from saying, okay. The UK kind of does not necessarily confuse me, but get me a little frustrated that they have UKTC and then they have WTC everywhere else. So then sometimes I look at this and I'm like, wait, let me double check which terrain they were even using. I can't presume. So that's only me being lazy and not knowing stuff. But nonetheless, great job at that event, getting 4-1 you get. Then we have Matt Palmer, 4-1 with Tactical Brigades, Planet Cracker GT. The TO did not release that. I mean, I can try to pull it up again, maybe if live it'll slow me down, but I did like right before I started the stream and it still didn't have it. If it does, I'll show it next week, and that'll be cool for you gets anyways, because I know people want to see what's going on with Tactical Brigade. But shout out to that get Matt Palmer. Also, I like to wait till I see it, because sometimes the TO, you will input the wrong detachment, or somebody will input the wrong detachment and it translates the information over incorrectly. Even if I go to Stats Uber, sometimes they'll say this person won. I go and click on it, the stuff's wrong. So we'll just wait on that. But excited to see a tactical list, to be honest. Then we have the suggested list. Now, it's my suggested list partially because it has some squigs. I'm a little biased on that. It still has the meat and potato units that we're expecting in a Warhorde list. That way it's still relatable to you guys and people who are still currently playing Warhorde. But it has enough flavor that I think it would kind of freshen up Warhorde a little bit, because like I'm seeing even here in live chat or in Discord and stuff, it's almost like people can start predicting what your Warhorde list is. And when that happens, is being people generally, especially orcs, get uninterested, right? So that's the only reason. There's actually a lot of really, looking at this again in real time, a lot of really good respectable lists and players that were on here. And as you can see, they're not all Warhorde. Some of it is by intention. I'm sure I might have missed some people when I was looking. But yeah, like I'm saying, that the reason I suggested Warhorde isn't because I'm like, oh my goodness, it's my favorite list. It's just they're all actually really good lists. But this is where I think we can actually see some flavor in Warhorde to re-encourage you to get creative. Nonetheless, let me know what you guys think when we go from this point. Shout out to the chats also. Sorry, chat, I should have been more interactive with you guys. I was just so excited. So what up to you gets Arcane? Oh yeah, at least thumbs up if I do get enough. Wall to the channel members as well. To you gets here nice and early. It's the rise of the green tide. I haven't said that in a while, dude. I actually like saying that. Yeah. That's funny. So another person just said, I'm going from, like we were just talking about in the honorable mentions, I got a GT in less than 2 weeks, and I'm going from a diehard Warhorde to running Dreadmob Stompa. Woo! That's fantastic. Not, shameless plug myself, I guess. You can watch this Stompa, how to use a Stompa video. It actually does have a little bit of finessing to it, to how to actually be the most efficient with it and not fully just blow yourself up as well. But you can get a lot of work out of that. And I do have lists that are extensive on it, only because I liked it so much and I had fun. I was like, this might be the only edition for the next decade that we can play this thing for real, right? So that's the people were like, why are you talking about that so much, dude? And it was like, dude, you understand that I bought it because I thought it was going to be like a center, like a thing on my shelf. The fact that I can take my little dude and strap him into my, as a passenger seat and take him to the event and show up, that's fantastic. Might not happen again for a long time. So that's why I actually have content on it, but that's hilarious. Great job. That's what I want to see, though. That's why we do this. People sometimes go, well, you're doing it to just copy the list. You can't copy a list. The list won't get you. Absolutely, I agree. In real time, I've seen people copy excellent lists. I might personally have used excellent lists and then got thrashed, right? So it's definitely on the pilot. So we actually go through all of this to show the orc diversity and to actually expand your ability to think. Sometimes people like to expand your thoughts and get more ideas, right? Because a lot of the time we might not know other orc players in real life that we can talk to about it. Don't have the time to go online and necessarily talk about it. Some of this is my own actually experience for like the first 2 years I was in Warhammer. Like the first other orc Warhammer player I met was essentially with the full Kult of Speed army. So it was like, some guys, I get it. So I actually show these so people feel more excited about like diversifying and coming out with out of the box ideas without necessarily, being stuck on only using social media. Oh, shout out to our Suicide Gambit. Whoa, for 10 Wall Tactic gifted memberships you get. I appreciate that. Very generous of you. We did finish the after action report. I was late for that. For the next one I did, this one I was using Warhorde, and then we already have the other ones signed, like already coming in succession for Kult of Speed. And then from there, I think the ones that were voted on from the channel members was like more DACA that I take to a RTT and then show the results. It's going to be hilarious trying to make more DACA work, but I've actually been having fun figuring it out. So thank you to Gets like Suicide Gambit for being generous and encouraging it and letting us get stuck in, because that helps us big time. So thank you very much. Let's get some gases in the chat for this big boss and give him a thanks. And what's up, Lazy Orc? Cheers. Hey, just picked up. And he said thanks. I wish a Stompa looked cooler. Hey, do not thrash the the Gork and Mork embodied into a mechanical suit. All right, you're gonna love that skirt. All right, no, it's so funny. Yeah, for sure. Well, shout out to the chats right now. I wanted to get more involved in the chat because you guys are always funny and go hard. So let's actually go to the get of the evening. The top performing orc player who actually was able to go undefeated with his war hordes once again. So we've actually covered Tom Godfrey before, not by chance. You literally look at the stats. He's one of the most winning orc players. So a lot of the time we'll hear, people theorize how orcs can perform and will perform and da-da-da. And then they go, well, the only thing I have is me. And then the top best world-class players that play on, world teams and such like that. It's hard to make that divide. And the best thing about Tom Godfrey is he's just a really good, excellent player that plays all the time and does great at events. And then he's willing, even in the notes where he concedes, there's other excellent, strong players or people that I understand that there's a skill disparity. Yet he's one of those, let's just say, average, like the rest of us who aren't doing it professionally, that aren't, traveling the world and going everywhere. You're just a dog in your own local meta, right? And that's what he is, where he's just like, I really figured out my meta. I got my reps in. I know who is the problems, and I get reps against them too. And that's what he's more of a, relatable, consistent player to that degree. And yet we see that he adopts and adapts because he did not want to use gas. Because I talked to him, he's in our Discord, shout out to that git, and he's always easy to reach, but he's like, man, he likes to play like the trash, having a lot of units, a lot of activations. As you can see, outside of Gaz and his mob, everybody else has as many activations and units as he can get. He really loves to saturate the board, which is something that he'll share in the notes as well. So let's look at his list. We have 2 beast bosses, 1 with cunning Babruo. I actually really like that enhancement a lot. Always find it interesting when it's on the beast boss unit because it's like, well, they generally do always die, but when they don't, that's fantastic. Then we have a Big Mech with Follow Me Lads and Gaz. Obviously, the meat and potatoes for sure. And so that's kind of like a staple right now. And he will give his thoughts on that in the in the notes as well, right? Because I like to ask these guys questions and such. So he does have thoughts on the mob as a whole going forward. And then we have 2 war bosses. So we have 4 trucks, 2 units of Breaker Boys, which are vital to his list. He absolutely loves bringing the Breaker Boys on his list. He really favors that ability to crack armor and having damage 3, and he does pay for the boss. I always get a lot of, here we go, back and forth. What do you want to do with that? Do we put a boss on our breakers or not? In short, if you're playing a mass MSU list, a bunch of small units all over, and you're just trying to saturate the enemy with stuff, you don't got to pay for them. You can put them on your knobs because you probably just have a lot of stuff. If you're now trying to actually get efficient, consistent results out of these breakers into a more diverse pool of enemies, because you actually need them to do their job when it's that go turn, pay for the war boss. And that's where we're at in the meta right now. That's where I've been on that side for a very long time, and I'm glad Tom feels that way too. So he sets these up in SWAT teams with alongside those flash kits. Then we have 2 Gretchen units for the home field and the backfield screening, which he finds vital. One of his new favorite units, the Commandos, and he actually did take war gear. When I pull up the thing, I'm gonna pull it up anyways, just so I can show you. So I didn't say anything right there. The war gear he took, he did take a rocket launcher, he took a burner, and he took the breacher ram, and of course the power claw. So people always ask, he took the better ranged weapons, which is what I advise too. So yeah, he took that, which I found was fun as well. And he really ended up liking this unit a lot. So once we go over his path to victory, we'll unpack the questions that I always ask him and his answers. But the one other thing I wanted to point out here that I found interesting was he only had 1 Stormboy unit. What I want to say there was that it found almost reassuring, quote unquote, right? Because in the after action report, you'll see that I intentionally didn't bring any Stormboys on my list. My after action report list is really weird. because what's the fun in seeing what everybody already knows performs already well. So I just brought stuff, which you guys will see. It's funny. But I didn't bring any Storm Boys on that list, and it did make things a little tougher here and there. But the fact that a lot of the more competitive players are now downsizing to one Storm Boy unit, yet when you hear from some of the renowned, we'll say Orc players, they'll say they always need multiple Storm Boys. I always want two. I always want three, at least three. So it's very interesting to just see the difference in diverse opinions there. I'm still in the camp of like, I still want one. I'm still really used to just having one, but I'm trying to get used to just not having one sometimes. So, I've actually not been playing them. So Storm Boys, but I do totally understand it. But you guys let me know what you think. Because are you bringing Storm Boys? Are you not? Are you bringing more? Are you just not bringing them at all? There's a lot of thoughts back and forth there, especially with the Coptus coming down in points. So yeah, it's like, I'm actually don't think there's a wrong answer is what I'm trying to say there. So shout out to Tom Godfrey. We're going to now take a look at his path to victory, and then he'll go over the notes for each of his games, and then he'll do a breakdown on how he felt about his MVPs and things he might change up, right? So let's get into it, you gets. What's up, chat? Chat's already getting into it, saying they're bringing one Storm Boy, they're bringing a biker. Yeah, exactly. You can change bikers, you can change Storm Boys around. For sure. Not bringing Storm Boys around sounds about as fun as eating a bowl of rocks. Whoa, I'm an orc though. I eat them rocks no problem. I'm hard as nails, boy. So that was fantastic. But yeah, I know, right? I did not enjoy that though, to be honest. So yeah. So let's look into this gets actual path to victory. So thanks for that, chat. I like you guys. Chat's feeling lively today. Though. You boys spicy out there. So let's look at his actual opponents, like I like to do. So we has his first matchup was and he just said it real quick because his own notes was said it as it is, not to be mean. Imperial agents. He said it was kind of a good pairing for me. Obviously, devastating turn 2. The Corvus died in strat reserves because he screened out the whole board by turn 2. Nothing to stay there. He said it was a mismatch, and he really just felt like he took it over. So just saying. But that happens sometimes when you go to events. Luckily, we still have some fun other games for him where he goes into the second game. This one was Purge and Crucible of Battle versus host Gene Stealers. He said it was a very good local player that he's familiar with, that he often seems to face round 2, at some events. And he had to deal with we'll call it Nid Alpha Strike. But so let's get into his list. We have a Benefactus, 2 of them, Biophages, 2 of them, a Nexus, a Reductus Saboteurs, 2 of those. 1 unit of the auto pistols, 1 unit of the flamers as the minimum size unit, a brick of hybrids. Actually, I think he had 3 of those, and then a last minimum size unit of hybrids, a Goliath truck, 3 individual Achilles Ridge Runners, an Atalan Jackal, the hybrid double bricks of the hybrid Metamorphosis, and then double units of Pure Strain Gene Stealers. What he said about this was that what ended up happening, that was the big swing here, was the Gene Stealers tried to Alpha Strike into his commandos that were screening Gaz. Then he ended up heroicing with Gaz, rolled a 9-inch on that heroic. So between that, piling in, consolidating, he was able to take up a lot of free movement up the mid-table, gave a turn 1 wall, which gave him a real problem to deal with. And he said he did just enough damage and efficient, choice selection to kill all these units, because though some of you will think, well, this isn't a good unit. Well, the thing is that this is a lot of bodies, and they're playing the same. If it's an actual, like you said, familiar with this meta and how to play Gene Stealers, they're going to swarm the table with all these little bodies, be able to regen entire units. So the reason that players still went for the Alpha Strike isn't because he's necessarily hoping like, oh, this is such a devastating unit, I'm going to kill in importance. What it is he's trying to create space so that he can start bringing stuff in for reserve, because that's exactly how that army works. Yeah, how Orcs work is I'm going to take on past, like I always advise people, past that mid-table board. See this screen? Pretend this is the board. You got to cross that mid-table line with your Orcs as soon as possible. But we are not the only Xenos to play the game that way. Tyranids, GSC specifically, really like to play the game that way as well. They're trading bodies for points. They don't care, right? So he's really just pushing the Mandos back so he can bring stuff off, right? Chat said Zog off. War, exactly. So the fact that he heroic was also the ability to make up all that mid-table space, crash into the opponent, and then really mess with his reserve, his ability to bring units back, because once those units drop, they are able to chew through Tom Godfrey's unit armies. There's not, he does still have Gaz on that army, and then he's bringing Breaker Boys, not a ton of volume on those units as well. 4 trucks, right? It's not like he can overly redundantly kill all these mobs without taking a lot of casualties. So that's why some of you would say, well, it was Gene Stealers. And remember, it's also matchup and, and it's purge. These units are easy to kill. Obviously, Gene Stealers are easy to kill as well if you pick the right units like these auto pistols. But if I got to go into the 20-man units, right? So, and if someone's saying, how do you deal with the reactive moves? If you deal with this reactive move from Gene Stealers, ultimately, how he was saying it is he just took up the mid-table anyways, and he was so far in their face from the terminal wall where it's like, well, you're just gonna move reactive backwards anyways, just and keep pushing them back their midfield. So he moves into his game 3, fantastic, where he goes into the Tyranids. And some people will say, well, Tyranids are in a great point in meta. One, Tyranids have way more actual event wins. Tyranids have more X01 ratings, and I believe, well, my video will show if I'm sure about that. I'll refute myself if I'm wrong. And Tyranids generally actually have a winning matchup into Orks, like across the general 40K community. So though some people may look at this and, well, Tyranids are not the toughest army in 40K. Well, they're actually one of the tougher armies for Orks to beat, and they're doing a lot better than us as a whole. So that's funny that people scoff their nose at Tyranids, yet when you look at the actual event results and the 4-1 placings, X1 placings, Tyranids are more respectable than Orks, actually. Not that I'm saying like, oh, poo-poo of them. No, I like Tyranids. I actually own the Tyranid army over there. What I'm saying is, like, all within context, my boys, right? So in this matchup, he had hidden supply, search and destroy, baby, invasion fleet. So let's take a look at this list real quick. We have 1 single hive tyrant, 1 unit of gargoyles, 2 20-man units of termagants, a biovore, double exocrines, 2 big 10-man units of gene stealers, which is way more actually intimidating to an orc army than just a 5-man unit, right? A lictor, and then triple Norn emissaries. Let's go. So how he said this one was going, he said another great player that he's familiar with. He said the dude also shoved a alpha strike of gene stealers into Gaz and the Mandos. And of course, now he has these big 10-man units, so it actually didn't go the way it went last time. He lost 17 boys from that alpha strike from the gene stealers, right? So how many of you guys would be like, oh, I'm still locked in, this ain't nothing, when you lose 17 boys from the first activation? So he was after that, Gaz punched out one of those units in return. What ended up being the real mistake for his opponents in Tom's eyes was parking 20 Gaunts, a Hive Tyrant, and 2 Torns right in the middle, kind of all stacked right by each other. And so this allowed him to really get off a devastating turn 1 WAAAGH. So in his fight sequence, he killed Nord 1 with the beasts. Mind you, if he's saying everything is parked there behind the middle one, though this is hidden supplies where there's more objectives and everything, and of course it's easier to get mid-table to degree. If you're all, as I understand it, standing in the mid, they're not standing on the objectives. That's the only way you're going to kill these Norns so easily. So he was able to kill him with the beastie and the big mech, because the big mech from Gaz's unit piled in. Then he, from clearing that, was able to let the Breaker Boys pile into the second Norn. The third Norn charged into a unit of Breaker Boys, and then the Breaker Boys fought on death. So he said game over. Gargoyles died in reserved because, again, he was so far up the field on his opponent from these early activations. Now, that opponent was trying to do the same thing to him. So this wasn't like a given. Like we said earlier, he pulled off a heroic. He understood the table, and this was search and destroy. So obviously, right? So let's look at his. That was his what, third game, right? Yeah. Then we go into his fourth game, which was into Astra Militarum. So we have, what was this? Combined arms. Let's go. We have Cadians. Actually, if you guys didn't know, I had an Astra Militarum army. It was actually all Tempest Scions when you could soup. Shout out to that, guys. Cheers to the gets that remember those days. So we have Cadian Castellan squad and one Cadian command squad, and the other one's a Catachan squad. One unit of Ogwyn bodyguards, double Rogaldorn commanders, one big brick of 20 Cadian shock, a 10-man unit of Cadian shock, 10-man unit of Catachan jungle fighters, two big 6-man units of double green with brute shields, triple unit Kazarkins, and one Torox with double Chimera. So let's see. Where does this get? Where am I? I just got lost my notes. Yeah. So what happened here was he said, what happened was the opponent was a little bit too reserved with his screening, and he had too much stuff on his Dorns that was too tightly packed in front, yet left this gap on the side for the breakers to charge through anyways. So it could also happen, if people aren't familiar, a good way when he says anyways means that, say that, which I mentioned in the after action report as well, but if someone's trying to screen you, a mistake to often make is, well, your base can't fit between this gap, which is a mistake I made, right? That's why it's funny I bring it up. But there's, your might not fit. It doesn't look like your base can fit through that gap anyways, therefore it's screened. Well, if you just declare multi-charges into the screening unit and the unit you're trying to get to, of course it extends your charge, of course your unit's more spread out, but you still gonna get stuck in. So that's kind of what happened here, is that he was still able to find a gap and push through there. So there's a chance that he might have had to leave one of his breakers or two of his breakers on some of the screening unit, but still able to get base to base with the Dorn and smash it. So he said that was actually a big mistake. Not saying that's exactly what happened, because he didn't describe exactly that way, but he did leave a gap, is what he's saying. So, because he said he charged through the gap anyway. So, unless he just walked through the gap, which would be unusual, but happens. He said on a turn 2 wall, he picked up 12 Bullgrin, a Chimera, a Dorn, and two squads of Scions and 2 Cadian blobs. Job done. So on the turn 2, he smashed through the entire army, which is a huge factor with his guard matchup, actually being able to hit them, and if they don't layer you, right? If you're watching someone like John Lennon, he'll layer you, but he'll also bring stuff that's able to, act as the screen that can push you out, like something like Catachans would help. Then we go into a great job there. Love to see that, boy. Turn 2 walls are great. And it was Lichpin, Crucible battle. Yeah, okay. Make sure I mention that. Then we go on to his last matchup. Boink. You're still following, right? Yes. Where he goes into the Tau. So Katau Monka. So we have a commander in Enforcer battle suits, 2 of them, 1 Devilfish, double knife, fire knife battle suits, double hammerhead gunships, ion seeker missile. Okay, 1 carnivore unit, triple pathfinders, 1 piranha, Triptide with 3 Riptides, and then double of the new, based off the points, South battle suits, which one it looks like. So, as for his matchup, this was Taken Hold on Search and Destroy versus Monka. He said the main matchup I wanted Commandos for, and they earned their points. He won the Defender roll off, and he said, Tom won the Defender roll off and turn 1. He screened 16 away from gas, so his opponent screened 16 away from gas with -2 to charge from Pathfinders. But his mistake was also putting 2 Riptides on the side objectives and a squad of suits and ion hammerheads in threat range of other stuff. That's the thing that you will find orc players, right? Which, of course, you have to be safe with your things as well, and the enemy will pre-screen you, but they also get very packed up into themselves because, and this was search and destroy, right? So you can imagine they're all kind of on top of each other. They got armor, they got suits, so they're going to be close to each other regardless. So he was so stuck on screening gas, which is fine, that the beast bosses casually deleted a riptide each one with 20 dev wounds. So remember, guys, if you don't know, watch the video how to fish for those dev wounds. But yeah, you could do that with your beast boss. So he says he got 20 devs. The Mandos and Breakas did suits on took out the suits and the ion hammerheads between them both. Eventually the Gaz unit just killed the Pathfinders, killed some stealth suits, right? So he's kind of working through the chaff art, but he's actually hitting the core of the army and the devilfish. But more importantly, landed a big problem in the deployment zone. -1 the moon made a big difference. So because search, he was able to crash through there as well. So he said the -1 the moon was a big deal, and functionally the game was over by turn 2, of course, as you can understand that, right? So with that being said, great job. He does have some notes and some stuff he wanted to say as well. Let's see. He said, this is my proudest win, despite not being the biggest, because the field was absolutely stacked with great players. Although I will say pairings were fairly kind to me. I avoided players I considered the very best at the event. So as I said, Tom's very humble. He always says that all the time, even though he's always stomping everywhere and always going 4-1 and has done well at events consistently. He will consistently say he's very aware that the path to victory matters, which the best players will always say and concede. And they'll say they know who they don't want to or don't necessarily favor themselves matched up into. Right. I remember at an event, I was like talking to a git that I'm familiar with, and I wasn't familiar with playing with him yet, but I knew of him and he was in the area. And I was like, I was feeling all confident. All right, dude, I'm going to be able to handle this. And then I see him and I'm like, okay, well, maybe not that one yet. You know what I'm saying? Going into the next, and then guess who I got the next day on day 2? I got that git, so we got stuck in, and that was a great job. Now I love him. I love playing that guy. So we all have that. We have to also be aware, like, right? But we all do. If we understand the meta, we know what's going to happen sometimes in hard games, especially hard missions and such, right? So that's also like. So great job. Sorry to keep blabbing. So now to talk about the gas brick. He says, of course, it killed a lot. It demanded the opponent's attention, and it pinned them in their deployment zone. All their resources were often looking at it, and often a detriment to their scoring. More often than not, the boys would die, though inevitably the -1 to wound would make it a big deal. And gas would continue to be an absolute menace. And it's sometimes just a gas delivery device. And what he means by that is what we went over in his Tyranid matchup, where he lost 17 dudes to an alpha strike from Gene Stealers, and it didn't matter at all. He just marched up the field, and that's absolutely true. If I got a Knob, a Big Mac, or whatever character is attached, and gas, I'm good. Because you can just crump with just that, to be honest. So a lot of time, it is a delivery mechanism. Also, the boys connect as a way to just take up space, touch tag a bunch of the units while you focus with gas. It's like I need to find something, an equivalent, a functional equivalent, but that's a good way to say it. So having said all this, he's still not totally convinced with the unit. Totally understand that. Mainly because it's 500 points, but I will continue using it for a few events and see how far he can take it, right? And you guys let me know what you guys think, because this is what, shout out to Lucas Troller. Someone was saying Lucas Troller as well, right? Lucas Troller as well was saying very similar things as to totally love it. It's awesome, but dang, it's a lot of points, man. Michael Mann, all of the best players we talk about, we know, people we're just gets familiar with, my local Discord, everyone we talk to, right? All Ork players kind of like, I really do like this, but dang, that's expensive. I mean, the boys still stayed at 170. I remember boys used to be 160. GW, the 20-man unit. Though I will say, I actually am in favor of the bigger units cost more. The cost difference of unit size is not just duplicating the cost, doubling the cost. Like I think Squigs, if they're so scared about it, dude, make my big bricks come down. All right, let's something be interesting like that. So, like he was saying, I've mentioned in the beginning, he likes to play a lot of chaff, a lot of trash, right? So it's different. I'm like that too, where it's like I like to play a lot of chaff, a lot of trash, and when I play gas, and I feel that kind of way, like, man, I wish I had more stuff. Still, ultimate, like, yeah, it does its thing, but dang, like, he said. Also, another thing he said is he's really enjoying the Mandos. The punchy half is really surprising, and they outperformed what he expected. He was able to kill Lictor with them, and they even killed a couple Crisis suits. Totally, especially when you're playing Warhorde, right? No lie, guys. People don't believe me. That's why I never mention it. Kill one of those stupid little Grey Knight. I remember brain fart of their suits. Baby carriers, right? I killed a baby carrier with commandos. Yeah, they got their bombs quick off and stuff, but I killed the baby carrier with just Warhorde Mandos. It just happens. Of course, like the Armor of Contempt obviously can only be activated one place and only one activation, blah blah blah. So they didn't have Armor of Contempt when I smashed them, but that's still sick when it happened. I was like, what? This never happens. And it might have lost a few wounds from something, but it was in the enemy's deployment zone, so I know it wasn't like shot at by anything really. So actually maybe one thing plus whatever. Ultimately, we're agreeing on the same thing. He's saying I have another GT next weekend. He said he's considering, or he will, for at least for this one, for this event, because he's testing stuff, right? He has dropped demandos for Snickra and another 10 grots because he missed having 20 in his backfield. It's funny because if you guys don't know, Tom was one of the first people that would take 20 grots in his backfield and just screen them across his whole field so people can't get there. And they draw Call the Horde. It's not a dead card in that case. And then late game, he can bring it up and do stuff with it and OC bomb stuff. So he really liked that. He said the 20 boys is usually only killable for one turn and then dies. So the theory is that 20 gots still efficiently denies Call the Horde for 4 out of the 5 turns. He's saying, like, right, if they don't got it that turn, they're whatever, they don't have it anyways. So yeah. He said I'm better at brevity now. So shout out to Tom. We appreciate you. Yeah. Oh, looks like we got a super chat, and I wanted to check something as well. So bear with me, you gets. Checking something here. So, oh my gosh, that's so funny. All right, remember, guys, check the vote. Make sure you get your votes in right now. Not as many votes as there were people in the chats. We get up to like 50 live viewers, which is pretty solid for how late it is. So thanks for the chats for the T gets for that. And speaking of our channel member, we got our channel member Flynn. What's up, you get? He says, speaking of chaff, why not run 2 units of Mandos and split into 4 squads? Now, I didn't set him up, you guys. I promise. He doesn't even know the list I ran in the after action report. I had 20 Mandos on the after action report list. So when you say why not do it? Generally, to summarize it, it always feels like half of that second unit, so 5 Mandos generally, kind of feel out of place and not able to really get full utility out of them. Like 15 is probably like the sweet spot for a lot of people. But when you end up paying for that extra, 5 dudes, or paying that cost of 240, then it feels like too much of just these units. And then you become really easy to kill with like a purge. You guys will become really easy to kind of hunt down in that case. Still generally kind of slow when they're in their spot. They're in their spot, and they can act as easy kind of units that the enemy just gets rid of and pulls them off the field. But they didn't feel terrible. Would I do it again? Probably. Like an RTT, I'd have fun doing 20 Mandos for sure. I'm just telling you, for honestly, that's most people kind of get it. That it's like, well, I can see 15. 20 feels like too much, and I don't know what else to do with this last 5. It kind of feels out of place and doesn't do enough. So that's what I would say to that. Though if you're trying 20, I feel like just feel it out. But really, it's not where opinion not where it's at. Just 10 Mandos feel solid, absolutely solid how they're at. But it's not a bad idea. I tried it after Extra Report. I showed it, and ultimately I was like, eh. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. Whoa. So get those live votes in. Let's see what else in chat's going on here. Yeah, 20 just feels like a lot. And yeah, I'd pay extra. That's a good way to put it, right? I'd pay 70 for an extra 5 if only we could. I would really appreciate if GW got a little more interesting with diversifying, right? Of if I expand the unit size or make it smaller, I pay a different offset cost. I also think that would be an interesting way to make the rule of 3 more interesting as well, where it's like, well, the third unit costs more than the first unit, right? That could be also an interesting. I wouldn't want it for like battle line and such, but there are arguments for a certain tier of unit that would want something like that. Though that's obviously easier said than done, but it was an idea, right? And that's kind of what Arcane's alluded to here. Like, I'd even pay more than what they would be cost cutting in half, and that's a cool way to look at it. Yeah, it's funny, and then obviously the chat was bringing up something interesting, right? If you listen to Lucas Troller interview, how he was saying he likes to hold his wall till turn 3, and then other people are like, "Man, I always do turn 2 wall," because I always want to have that. I actually understand both points of view for sure. What I will say is, it's if you are still scoring, getting good trades off for the first 2 turns, and you can hold on to that wall. Especially bottom of turn until turn 3, you have a very, very high likelihood of swinging and winning that game. Because at that point, people just run out of time and activations to kill you usually, and you broke their back just enough. So it's like, I'm a as much as I understand the gets, I'm in Luca's favor. That turn 3 was like game ending, boy. If things are going my way, I'm on turn 3. Because I'm able to kind of still stay stuck in and kind of go total, like when you're feeling out your opponent, kind of early rounds of a fight, etc. Maybe they're bigger than you, and you're that's a good way maybe for Orks to look at it, right? We're not at our full potential until wall state. You can think of it as, I know the get hits really hard, really early, but he's gonna get tired, right? And that's kind of how it is for Orks. If like you can wait till turn 3 for that wall, yeah, they're done. They're cooked, as the kids say nowadays. What's up? The chat's going hard today. What's up, you guys? Whoa, a bunch of people catching lives. Yeah, we do this every Wednesday and Friday, and honestly, I want to do a little bit more live stream, maybe Mondays. If chat supports it, if people are about it, I'll do another one, even if it's more casual, just existing, whatever that is for an orc. I guess I have to go find something to crump live. So we have joking, of course. Let's see. Someone else was saying interesting stuff here as well. Sorry, I was seeing somebody was saying thanks to the chat channel. Yeah, love you guys. What's up? Thank you for those compliments. Sorry guys, there's a lot of chats. I was just looking through what everybody was saying. I said that already, but thank you. You get again, Flynn, like I said. Oh, what's up, Arcane? Whoa, for $5 super chat. Let's go. Any tips or tricks, preferred units for Vintrix Guard, since the blueberries are everyone's alleged boogeyman currently? So I don't have a full answer on that yet, though I have been looking into it as well. And people locally, like I already know, shout out to my Git that has 18 of them all built up. I'm like, let's go. We don't have to get stuck in. Another guy got 12 already. We're going to get stuck in, right? People are already running them, getting ready for events. Yes. I do, there's a data slate coming. So this answer is subject to change, maybe even soon, right? We're already in December. So if it is for what I would bring from Vintrix Guard, it almost becomes you don't have to kill all the Vintrix Guard. You just have to kill, maybe if they're bringing 3-mans, getting rid of one of the 3-man units. And a lot of the time, the best way to deal with like a Dark Angel style list, right, which is I have these Terminator things and I have this Lion L. Johnson and is I kill all your other stuff, right? As you were hearing from the winning orc player from the events, right, is he's just pushing his enemy into the deployment zone, even if he's getting tabled. It's not easy to obviously push Victory's Guard down the deployment zone. They have like every rule. What I'm saying is, if you are able to, when you're setting yourself up for success, you're setting yourself up for killing everything else on their list because they can't win the game with these killy bricks exclusively, right? And when we're looking at these Victor's Guard lists actually get unfolded, very elite heavy. They'll generally bring like some kind of tank or gun platform to assist them. You know, they'll have their typical, I have my sticky intercessors, I have my scout, whatever little thing they can fit in there. And you start pulling apart these units that would typically be used for their scoring, especially on your WAAAGH turn. Like when people are screening gas and don't let gas get stuck into their ideal target. Well, use gas to touch everything else that's on the army that's being used as a screen. People sometimes will be so worried about you killing their favorite unit, their valuable unit, that they give up the rest of their army in the state that now they're killing you and tabling you by the end of the game, but they're now no longer in a position to win. And I think as these lists get more refined, we're going to see how much chaff and chaff and threshold of how many Victor's Guard is ideal, right? People always like to say 18 max, which sometimes is the case, right? When we were around Bully Boys, we were like, all right, just run them all, right? But we'll see if that actually becomes the case, because people are already like, well, this is kind of too much. I don't have enough stuff. So we'll see how that unfolds. I think the strategy is what's going to be more interesting for attacking the lists than attacking the Victor's Guard themselves. But a few ways you can consider, obviously, is their mortal wound. They don't really have mortal wound defense a lot of the time. I always talk about how Orks have to be interesting with getting mortal wounds into their damage, problem solving, right? What I mean by that is, like, if you're an Orc player and you're not considering doing mortal wounds throughout the game, you're not thinking about Orcs correctly. You want to think about, if I can get, of course, be CP and smart and intensive. But there are units where a grenade is proper, where tank shocks are proper, where understanding to throw your bombs quick at the right units when you can. You hear the death copters floating around on some lists, flying over people give mortal wounds as well. So there's things where, in that case, yes, that could be more interesting. And I do want to see the list develop more, and I actually want to play against it. So before I give too many deep thoughts on it, right? Because everything is like so much theory from these people, and some people are already playing them, like a couple here and there, and they're proxying them. And I'm down to do it too. So hopefully this weekend. When is Michael Mann gonna answer? When is Michael Mann coming back on the channel to answer for abandoning us for Spaceballs? Oh, you see that, Michael? Or community knows what's up. They're like, what happened? No, he's just doing work now, right? You get it, but I know you're joking. Yeah, no, he's getting stuck in, doing a great job over there, right? Being the voice of reason for Art of War when it comes to their positions on Orks. Hopefully he can work them through to be reasonable with Orks, right? So I appreciate that. Or boy, what's up, John Otto? What's up? Whoa, he said just a wall. Another one of them successful long-time Orc player. Love this kid, right? When he seen me at a Adepticon, like, hey nerd, whoa, like, I absolutely love that intro. Everybody else, obviously, I like when people are nice and respectful, whatever, but it just felt right after talking to him so long online. So that's cool. Thank you very much for the support you get. Nice to see you back in 40K. So yeah. Let's see, knobs pushing them with power claws. Yeah, fighting on deaths, of course, are good ways, right, for the tricks as well. Of course, things that we're familiar with. If you fight on death, the enemy cannot activate Armor of Contempt. Absolutely not. I've unpacked it in videos. Other people, shout out Tappy Crumper, he explains that as well. It's everywhere. So if your person's local, Space Marine is telling you they can Armor of Contempt, they're just absolutely wrong. Because it's a model by model activation for Fight on Death, and our Armor of Contempt is a by unit when selected by a unit. So by wording, you can't Fight on Death, you can't Armor of Contempt. So of course, Fighting on Death would be a good way to also trade out Victrix Guard, which is why I say, but you can't trade out like all three of the units, right? And like people are saying too, got Calgar as a unit out there, you're just not going to kill. So it's just like, you kill the one you can, and a good way is Fights on Death, mortal wounds. And also multi-charging them and pulling their units apart so they can't kill everything and just holding them in place. Of course, they can fall back if they're in the right tactical and the Gladius. So there's a lot of context. But thank you. I appreciate that. And our boy John Anto for that. Yeah, you guys are saying, right now, Calgar is the problem. What's up, Tiger? Whoa. No, keeping them alive forever. Yeah, that's true too. All right, so let's see what actually won the vote, because I wanted to get more people in vote. Looks like we got a couple more. We go into the Stompa Horde. Let's go. Of course, Anthony, this is your fault. Let me see if I can pull this up. It's funny because I was talking to him. So actually, I wouldn't say I have notes exactly on every game wins, but he did tell me what the big takeaways are. So let me look at that because we were talking about killer cans too, right? So let's see. As I'm gonna pull up his list. Well, I'm gonna pull up his list and path, but ultimately what the list was, and don't worry, I'm gonna pull it up on BCP. It was Stompa, Gork, 2 3-man units of Flamer Killicants, a Death Dread with all saws and claws, 1 unit of Ludas with the shock attack gun with ignore cover, Grots with Zagrot and his super runs, some more Grots, and a Snickrot. So yes, that is also an exciting list. Let me make sure I pull that. Let me, of course, and chat. What's up, you guys? I guess we're here for the long one today because normally these are only about an hour, but we still here, so we're gonna be putting them. Ooh, my boy talking about cans. Let's go. Did you see Orc ranking for Art of War? You mean like where they placed us as a detachment or their unit by unit placing? Their unit by placing? No, I didn't look at that one. I think most of us generally agree on like what the best units are. And I was having fun with my last tier list, so it's like I understand they're going to be all over the place with my opinion and theirs, but ultimately, because me and Man spoke, I know enough that I'm like we agree on the vast majority of stuff. And so yeah, what do you mean by like which ranking system? Let me know I'm the size Sphinx because you were saying that. But yeah, I think as for their tier list, I think they said like we were I don't know like top 10 probably. Last time I checked, I think that's what they were saying. Which is cool. I think when you're looking at like maybe Brian Sepp using them, like yeah, I mean Brian Sepp's using them, and there's 10 dudes. Yeah, let me sorry, and there's like a 50-man event. He might end up in the top 10. He is absolutely good enough to do that. So you're talking about like the best player in the world with Orks versus everybody else. Maybe, which is maybe how they vote. We all have like a scale to a degree of how we're grading our lists and like a scoring criteria and system. And some of us just put it out, internalize it, and some of us put it out there. And sorry, I'm trying to pull up this event list, by the way. And I think that they're looking as they're awesome. Like they're really efficient players, and they really understand the top potential sometimes of individuals when they have their hands on the list and how they get the most out of a faction. But I don't think that always translates to the rest of us gets right. It was Exterminatus. Am I spelling it wrong? Don't worry, guys. I got it. So keep talking, check. I'm gonna find this. There it is. Exterminatus. Let me see what you guys are saying. Unit by unit. Oh, the unit by unit one? No, I didn't see it. No, I didn't see the unit by unit one. I mean, I probably generally agree with most of what they would say. If there's interesting one, what would they say? I said I was gonna do a reaction video to speak to stuff more often. I might do a reaction video just by that, just to kind of go alongside them, just because it would be fun. Maybe some more gets too, right? Oh, I found the list by the way. So I found the event. Here we go. Pulling up the Orks. Where did he end up? Because he did do pretty. This is the right list. I mean, event. Oh, there's multiple, huh? With the same name. That's funny. Nope, not that one. Dang, like I said, I should have known that the Orks were gonna want the list that I was not having up, that I didn't have pulled out. It's funny, I had a bunch out, and I was like, I don't know if they'll pull that one. I actually thought you guys were gonna pick the Bully Boys list or the one I suggested, but of course, Orks are gonna be Orks. It's funny, I'm never. Where is this event? Maybe I have the wrong date. What's chat saying? It says, yeah, I think they're newish. No. Let's see. 5-3. This was at, yeah, it was at a, yeah, it was at a pretty, I thought it was a big event. What's chat saying? Looters are likely getting a new kit soon. Right. Well, do you guys really think, what was that? Valric was saying something about that? That he thinks we're going to get a bunch of different new stuff. I kind of was interested in reacting to that one too. I was like, what is it? What do you know you get? Oh, and I see why, you guys. I'm dumb. Why I wasn't finding it. That's okay. It's there we go. So there's two reasons I wasn't finding it, guys. One, because I usually don't look at it live. I was looking at I had the wrong name. And two, I had the wrong actual, where I found it now. I had the wrong actual round selected. So sorry about that. Now let's move into my gets. Tony, let's find this together. Oh, look at this Michael Man right there. What's up, Michael Man? Oh, there's the one he won, the event that he won. Yeah, I forgot that. Cali Cup, he gets. So let's find Tony. Shout out to Jeff Pope right there. We just passed. That was the 6-2 orc player. It's a Stompa. Even though obviously I'm always happy if the orcs want to see the Stompa because why am I not just putting find? Oops. Oop, yeah, he would be on the other page. You guys watch me fumble. And then find walk. So this just Jeff. What? It's not showing Tony. Don't worry, he's here. We'll find him. Because there's Jeff right there. So Tony would be in the 5-3 category. I missed him on my last run through. I mean, oh, there he is. Okay. I was like, did I expect him to score too high with the Stompa? Yeah, let's see what chat's saying. That's funny. 8, no way you thought anything but a Stompa list was gonna win the vote. Whoa, right. I guess I'm listening to the grots sometimes a little too much when people complain about all my Stompa love. But Anthony didn't. Anthony took our banter to heart and he took it to the event and it paid off. So here it is, right here, as you guys can see yourselves. There's the 5-3. He did not lose his first game, which to me is a big deal and pretty awesome. But yeah, thank you for that comment. I like that. Chad's always got some spicy to say, right, guys? What's up, then? No, I'm just kidding. Let me get rid of all these extra tabs, though. Trying to slow it down for you guys so I can spend more time with the chat and your gets, because you guys are funny like that. Thank you, Chuckles. You gave me a chuckle. And like I said, I'm the side said unit by unit. You know what? I'm the side. If comments, everybody lets me know they want me to do reactions, I'll do reactions, and then we'll see how I really feel about it. You'll see it in real time, my reaction to Art of War's tier list video. Let's see. Okay, so that's funny. Chat's just outrageous for Orks, right? So here we go. He says, "Hey, lady, I'm walking here." That's funny. That's great. I said that's funny twice. All right. So we have Boss Snickrot, Zagrot, like I said, Shock Attack Gun, 2 baby mechs. Do need the baby mechs. 1 minimum size unit of Gretchen, 1 large, a Luda, Death Dread with the claws, a Gorkanaut, double kill cans, 3 mans, and a Stompa. So we're going to the list. One thing I will say is, one, I did an after action report with the Stompa. You can find it. After action reports have their own playlist now, so they're easy to find. 2, I have extensively covered this detachment and these units, everything within it. So if you do want tips on how to run these, Anthony ran them, essentially how we were talking about when I made those videos as well. And he said he did not expect to do this well, like we were saying. He didn't even reach out to me after doing this. I reached out to him and he was like, yeah, I wasn't even expecting to do that, but he was wrecking people. And then he told me a little bit about his losses. Yeah, so fantastic. And in my after action report I had a brick of cans, a Gork, a Mork, and the Stompa. So similar, but I didn't have the Death Dread. So shout out to him. I know when he said he brought the Death Dread, I was like, what a Death Dread, dog. What? Death Dread suck. You know, but I like Death Dreads a lot more right now that they actually do mortal wounds in the charge. And he's like, for sure, every time I'm bringing all arms. Let's see. Let's see. Okay. So, as for his first matchup, it was the green orc matchup. Shout out to Roman Cruz, one of our gets. Whoa! So we have a Beast Boss, a Big Mech in Mega Armor, double shock attack guns, one gas to do a Thraka, Beast Boy, Storm Boy, triple truck, Battle Wagon, the big 10-man unit of Flashy Gets, double Gretchen, Amando, a brick of knobs, and then 2 tank buster units, which I appreciate. Is that 10-man unit knobs? Yeah. And he actually brought a couple big choppers. I appreciate you for keeping it wiggy wig, and I appreciate you for bringing the big choppers. Man, I want big choppers to be a little better. Like, let the big choppers hit on 2s. Or like let them already be strength 8. Something, right? There has to be something there. Because 8 to 9 is like that. It's a good breaking point, but it's not like a huge breaking point. And then I think, yeah, like we talked about before, knobs and tactical brigade with gas is probably the most interesting way. I have to think a little bit more before I commit to this. I think so. I think it's the most interesting way to alternatively play gas currently than just playing the boys. And the most fun, interesting way to do it that's not boys would be with knobs in this detachment, other than obviously bully boys, mega knobs, right? But like, because you're getting sustained lethal on the knobs on 5+, you can give them cover so that they actually had to stack that. They could fall back in charge. You can go more OC. They become interesting in that way. So I do appreciate it. With that said, though, as someone who plays a Stompa, the reactive moves from the Grots can also be interesting. And what I mean by that is, remember, he has Zod, and Zod has a 12-inch reaction as well, a big reactive move. So if, and you don't really necessarily care too much for the want all the time in your dread mob, a lot of time it's even a defensive thing. Though if you want your Gorkanaut to get stuck, it'll be interesting, and you want to do the wombo combo with the cans, you can be interesting. But you could also use it sometimes to just be like, well, I'm just going to make Zod get in your way and then demolish you when you come out to interact with this. And like battle wagons and all that stuff's getting devastated by a Stompa. And once the tank busters like go for it, and if they whiff, they're just getting erased. You probably, have a hard time delivering those gets, right? And yeah, Stompas need their own dashi buff. But shout out to that guy playing Roman. And Anthony, I think, also plays Tactical Raid. So obviously he's familiar with that detachment as well. But I do like the list, Roman. So awesome stuff. Then we go into his second game, which was one of his losses, which is into the Eldari aspect host. Araman, Fugan, Genzar, Slilax, Magnus, or Magan Raw, sorry, I said Magnus. Double Void Reavers, a Dark Reaper, a Dire Avenger, big brick of Fire Dragons. You can guess what happened there. Howling Banshees, double Rangers, double Swooping Hawks, triple Warp Spiders, a Falcon, and a Wave Serpent. He did give a little bit, I guess. What he was saying here was those guys are the Eldar is the only army and matchup that was able, from his experience so far, to one-shot his Stompa in his deployment zone. One of the biggest critiques I hear about the Stompa is that people are like, it's just going to get popped turn 1 in my deployment zone. Not that I'm going to say for sure your friends do this to you, because don't automatically assume bad intentions by friends or anything, of course. But there are times where sometimes you let people know you're going to play the Stompa, and then because you want them to have like have tools, you match up, you don't want to be like catching them off guard or whatever it is, and then they bring all the best tools to just destroy your Stompa. Right? So it's actually not, of course, Space Marines can do it, Imperial Knights can do it, Eldar can do it. So I'm aware there's maybe a guard army can do it too, right? There's armies that can do it, but just because you show up to an event doesn't mean you're getting every single game just destroyed in your deployment zone, which Anthony said this was the only matchup it did. So Fire Dragons ran it right up to him, melted his Stompa, game 1. I mean, that game, obviously it's over by then. So yeah. Then we go into his third matchup, which was his loss, but he actually had a little bit more to say there. So it was into the Berserker Warband World Eaters. So they don't exactly do well into high toughness stuff, but their strats and their new Exalted 8-bound allow them to do obviously better into like our Titanic units. So we have Karn the Betrayer, Master of Executions, double of them, and then a Slaughterbound. 1, 2 10-man units of Khorne Zerkers with 2 Rhinos, 2 Spawns, 2 8-bound, 1 Exalted 8-bound, double Forge Fiends, and then triple Jackals. What he did say here a little bit was now obviously not too much tactics. Like it's you got to stop it right there or something. But the one thing he said was that the World Eaters, he just straight up lost this game. The Forge Fiends landed 18 damage on the Stompa. So at that point, you're not really worried about their ability to do, like, they're not worried about their ability to kill you anymore, which is an issue because there is a whole wombo combo when you're running the Stompa to say, I can declare the WAAAGH, I can spend a CP so my Stompa could advance, shoot, and charge, and then I can re-roll the advance. And that does allow your Stompa to move sometimes through and into the mid table because you need all that extra stuff to clear movement to clear stuff. So it would be, there are circumstances where you will charge stuff with your Stompa. And after Arc Report, I did charge a Greater Demon with it. But yeah, he said he just straight up lost that one. And also the enemies, him having Gork meant the enemy had to either kill the Gork and I deleted whatever it did, or it tried to kill the Stompa and the Gork did whatever it wanted. So in those cases, of course, he wasn't able to do it because it got killed too quickly. But generally, people aren't too efficient at killing the Stompa unless they're like really tooled for it, as we've seen with like the Eldar. Then we go to his fourth game. Wait, was it the fourth one? Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Sorry, guys. All right. This one is the Necron Scatterstar Arsenal. Silent King, Catacomb Command Barge, Technomancer, 5-Flayed Ones, Ophidian Destroyers, Tomb Blades, Canoptic Doom Crawlers, Canoptic Wraiths, Canoptic Reanimator, Scorpex, Triple Doomsday Arc, Triax Stalker. So you can do work with Doomsday Arcs can do work to your Titanic models, of course. But the Stompa can kill at least 2 of them right off the bat. And if the Silent King gets exposed because they want to shoot their Mineers so bad, then you'll just focus a Silent King, and probably with just your primary gun, you can kill a Silent King. So when you actually allocate your guns properly, which really you only need to use your 3 to hinder your own hazardous capabilities, so you don't kill yourself, you can dismantle and that one immediate shooting these units. And then as for the Wraiths, not that it happened because I don't know, but let's just say for fun's sake, because we're having fun here, the Stompa used Clanking Claw strats where he gave it additional strength and damage. So then these would be 4 damage sweeps into the Wraiths. But also you still have the Gork running around. You still have all the cans running around for 3 damage. They're punching as well. So you do have just so much saturation of damage into the Canoptic Wraiths. But when is that go turn and you have the CP in the bank for the Stompa and you spread all the CP into it, or you spread it into the Gorkanot, you can deal with the stat checky kind of Necron list. So with the Scatterstar. So 95-point win there. Fantastic. Then he goes into his 5th game where he catches his final loss. There we go. Into the Thousand Suns. This one he was a little not happy about because he said this one he felt like it was within his grasp to win. I want to see if he actually mentioned exactly. Oh, and he said -1 damage on the cans was awesome, by the way. He liked that. Okay, I think I see. I see where he said. What's up, chat? Don't worry, I see you guys still there. People are getting off. I know it's late. Don't worry, I'm gonna wrap up. We got Thousand Suns, Great Coven. We have 2 Demon Princes. 2 Demon Princes of Zeech with wings. Magnus the Red. Zengor Shaman. Double Annihilators. Double Mutilers Vortex Beast. Double Scatoptic. Whatever. Robots. Triple unit of Zangor and Lion with Fate Caster bows, and then double 10 units of Zangors. New DLC came out or whatever expansion, guys. Hit me up. I'll play. I'll get stuck in on Space Marines with you gits. Destroy some dusty boys. But as Tony was saying here, he said that it was layout 1 and he started in the L objective, and on the top of turn 2 moved into that L to kill Magnus. He said he tabled his opponent but was stuck on his home for the rest of the game, and his opponent had terraformed everything, and he lost the game 72 to 87, roughly. So, in short, He moved into position into the relay 1. I started outside the L where the home is, and top of turn 2 he moved into the L. So I've actually had that happen as well. I did lock myself in there, I guess you're right, but it was against Imperial Knights where you're like, I'm hiding behind this because I don't want to get shot, and then you move into it, and then you're like, oh, I can't move through this because I don't have Titanic Walker because GW doesn't recognize my freaking baby toddler size model that can sit in my passenger seat but can't move through this terrain. Boy, he can move through this terrain literally. All right, but anyways, that's what happened is that he got trapped in his own deployment zone. The enemy had terraformed and he out terraformed him to score. That's kind of funny, Tony, but that's still also a shitty way to lose. Of course, Arcane hit me up. So then we go to game number 6. You know Arcane. You can DM me. 4, 5. Okay. Boy, I can only count to 5, so we're struggling. 1, 2. Okay. Then we go into his 6th game. From here, he wins all of them. So he goes into Space Marines, Shadow Mark Talon. We have Sean. I'm just calling him Sean. All right. Captain with the jump pack, Cave and Strike, Lieutenant with combi weapon, Intercessors, 2 5-man units of assault jump pack intercessors, the big Centurion Devastator squad, which could be problematic, bro, because the being able to pull them off and then choose the line of fire to get into the Stompa would suck. So then we have a small unit of Centurions, a big brick of Plasma Inceptors, small unit of Inceptors, 2 of them with the bolters, and which would be decent into Azad's unit, right? And then 2 units of big 10-man unit of Vanguards. So he does have respectable, anti-tank in this big brick. This big brick. But like he mentioned earlier, if you choose the Gork, Stompa's going to kill everything else. If you choose to try to take out the Stompa and you fail, you won't get crumped in return. So we actually have the guns. You can pick up all the Centurions once we actually see them with our primary weapon. And then we have all the other, you also have Zod. And keep in mind, if you really want to try to deny the ideal positioning for someone's reserve, Zod's really great at doing that. That's generally what I actually found myself doing. I explained that in some of the other videos, talk about how to use a Stompa, is units like Zod or Grotz or whatever, another big walker, is also a good way to push out reserves or these units that are ideally trying to set up their kill shot on your big walkers. Well, take up the table space from them. If you can, and you can do that to a certain degree with Zod, because everybody else, your big killie, your walkers, and some of your cans can stay back, or obviously cans come off from table at reserve to counter their reserves. But because you're not so reliant on the WAAAGH, you can actually use Zod to manipulate the battlefield instead when you know it's their go turn as you're setting up. So I could see that also coming into play. Tony didn't say that, but I can totally see it when you're playing into one of these heavy reserve armies when you're playing Dread Mob. So then we go into the 7th game where he goes into Death Guard. So we have a Great Unclean One and Lord of Contagion, Mortarion, Rodriguez, the Tallyman. We have a Chaos Predator Destructor, Chaos Spawn, Death Shroud Terminators, triple heavy blight drone launchers, Nurglings, double 10-man unit Poxwalkers. So those some people would say like, oh, this isn't meta, bro. No, mind you, this dude Rodriguez himself is an ideal unit for killing something like Victrix Guard. So he's a meta tech right now, actually. So shout out to my boy Kevin, right? And Kevin is local player. I think he finished Demons, top player, whatever. So I play in Rodriguez a lot, and his stacking combos and his own demon detachments legit. But when you place him into Death Guard, then he's able to, benefit from the enemy being affected by contagions and such. So from what I understand. So yeah, these are actually legit. That being said, I've done the math a bunch of times with Kevin, played it out with Kevin a bunch with the Stompa as well for fun. Even with on the 4-up, on Unkillable, Greater Demon, on Great Unclean One, when you do the proper strat stacking, you are absolutely decimating the 4-up Feel No Pain guy, even if he's re-rolling ones. Meaning the Great Unclean Ones, the Mortarion, and Rodriguez are getting absolutely deleted if they expose themselves. To the point that even if you have a good turn, right, you can simply use your Gatling gun on, let's say you really want to kill Mortarion, so you're going to put your primary and your mega launcher on him. That should be enough if you're stacking enough strats. But if you really want to, and you want to be a little greedy, you can take your Gatling gun, put it on the Green and Clean one, put it on WAAAGH, and then spend all the strats, and you could just decimate a greater demon with just a Gatling gun sometimes. So I can see this being one-sided for sure. And I'm sure there was a good game to a degree, but yeah, that was sick. So that was that. So then we go into game 8. So this last game, which is into the Gene Stealer Soul. So a triple Abominants, Biophage, Patriarch, Reductus Saboteurs, double, some hybrids with auto pistols, double hybrids with hand flamers, Neophytes, Galanus Rack Grinder, triple Aberrants, double Achilles Ridge Runner, Metamorphosis, and triple Gene Stealers. Funny enough, I've also played Dread Mob into Gene Stealers. You don't get to see Gene Stealers so often, but I did get to play with Dread Mob into them. And they don't really have good anti-tank. They can just whiff into like a Gorkanaut, really. So once they do that, and Zod works really well for controlling the table space. I totally turned one wad with Zod and then got in the way of these Pierce Strains, and then a result, I was like, all right, Gatling gun on the Gorkanaut, just getting ready into all those guys when they're in my face. And then the Aberrants, they're like, I gotta feel no pain. I'm like, 6 damage, so not trying to talk down or anything, but based off my own experience and this score, Dreadmob had the tools, right? Because not saying those are like horrible units, but it's like, oh, you're living off feel no pains, bro, Aberrants, 6 damage, they're smushing them. Killer cans come in, 3 damage. Then you got a bunch of flamers, so it was pretty sick. So shout out to Anthony. I'm gonna have to give you tell you about them. Let me DM this git, because he didn't even reach out to me. He didn't expect anybody would care. Then we look at the Orc community and they vote for this git. All right, so I let him know, so you guys can give him some love in the Discord, because he's a regular of that git. So that being said, fantastic job by Anthony and his Dread Mob Antonio. Yeah, so if you want more tips how to play Dread Mob, and these Ludas, Luda, Shock Attack Gun, Ignore Cover, excellent unit for Overwatch. Very hard to actually utilize this when you're playing with the Stompa, because generally it's eating your CP. But for that early game, or sometimes very late game, when they do become exposed, finally, they can get really nasty on the opponents when they have to stand on the primary late game. They're a hard unit to kill, like somebody was mentioning, like Victrix Guard, for example, right? Victrix Guard can't Armor of Contempt when they move on to that objective, and I Overwatch them with my Ludas. And even though I'm wounding them on now 3s, everything's 2 damage and they're 4 wounds, right? So I'm told, and you have the Shock Attack Gun, you don't have an invuln, so you're not having cover, and you're -4 AP on the Shock Attack Gun. Ooh, right. So that's something else. Arcane, shout out to you, right? Not saying that, that's why I took context, like what detachment are you actually playing and such. But there are different answers and different detachments for things you can do. Interestingly enough, the Luda Brick, Shock Attack Gun, Dread Mob combo, ignoring cover would mess up some Victrix Guard, at least in Overwatch. Of course, when the normal shooting, they can Armor of Contempt and such. But these are all things we got to consider as Orc gets, right? Get stuck in. So that being said, Orks had a great time. I have a great time with my Orks. Now I am interested for the data slate for what's going to happen. I do have some good, hopes and also realistic expectations, like I said in that other video. So be sure to, keep enjoying whatever you're playing, because to be honest, I think Orks come with a lot of stuff, and if you're building out your collection, just keep building it out, dude. When we're going into the next edition, you never know how we're going to look, and ultimately you want to look at your collection and like the models and like what you're going to play with. And I promise, you stick around with WAAAGH Tactics, we'll make sure you can win with whatever your collection is, unless you're a crazy gay and you're just wanting one of everything and really trying to mess up your synergy. But if you're actually trying, we can make it work, I promise. So yeah, I'm a little bit longer in chat just because I want to make it to a 1 minute and 30 or 1 hour and 30 minutes. That's a long one for a Wednesday, you get. So thank you for the support and love. Granted, you didn't put Grotz and Warboss in your rank string, so not sure how much I can trust you. Yeah, and you know what? I did want to mention that. A little bit of that was because I was tired of like the very obvious choice of Grots are S tier, the number one unit based off statistic and probability of them being used and the commonality of them being used. I can make a really obvious argument that Grots are the most prevalent, important, and obvious unit you're going to bring on your orc list every single list to a certain degree, right? So I'm very aware of that. But that's a boring answer. And I've been doing tier lists on orcs for years, and I talk about orcs all the time. And I don't want to see it Grot at the top of my S tier list, even when I'm just having fun. And it was a fun ranking system. So thank you, Arcane, for taking it with a grain of salt and understanding that it's fun. But yeah, totally understand. That's why I said I also agree with them. And War Boss, you can argue is S tier within the codex as well. But then again, you know, to each their own. Whoa. Let's see where you gets we're saying. Oh, you said you want to talk to Volrak. Oh, you want to maybe I'll reactive to Volrak or Auspex. I like Auspex, dude. I remember I was back in the day. I would actually like imitate Auspex tactics, and I forgot how I was doing it, but it was a little spot on. But yeah. My other favorite geek is Morty and Glory, but he doesn't talk about orcs enough for me to actually react to him, other than if he does something funny. Then let's see, I compare Ludus with the shock attack on. Yeah. What's going on here, you get? So I hope you guys are doing good, everybody. What about a Warbo or Grabos? You talking about the red Gabo? Huh? So shout out to that, guys. We got the paint competition, of course. So of course, with that being said, there's only one thing to keep in mind. Is don't cross our wall, because we'll knock your teeth out. Ooh.